we're in the middle of discovery, ancient discovery. We have found certain things that we call vegetables, so we followed a protective order on their discovery. Had to do with certain, they want to call correspondence. I learned how to get that up now.
Just move your chair. Yes.
Anyway, we filed a protective order on a couple of things that they went from discovery between everybody in this administration, including correspondence with visitors and the planning department and everything else.
Yes.
And we filed a motion for protect that, so that's where we're at. They've agreed now to back off some of it, but we're still in discovery.
Okay. So if it goes beyond when the charter goes in, the council will still have some oversight.
Yeah, it's just, you know, it's a case that's still in, and I don't know when it'll get to litigation, but it'll be,
It won't. You think that the county executive will be
Yes.
oh, I don't think that's,
It's
doubt.
facts are the facts.
The facts are the facts, yes. And, you know, if it, court finds that this board has authority to do that, but I think probably that just goes back. But I don't think the county will dictate the litigation of it is just going to continue on.
But could the county executive intervene and say,
I don't know if that
you said to me you thought that the settlement relief
Yeah.
do we have any documentation or has to showing?
Yeah, Karen is off. Donna was trying to track. Very good. I think what happened.
Yeah, nice, I think 30,000, I think it was. We get 15. How much for what? Scott? I didn't get in there, I couldn't get in the back of the car.
Well, I know, huh?
Battle has been going.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Board of County Commissioners work session agenda for August 14th, 2012. Again, as a friendly reminder, if you have a BlackBerry or a cell phone, if you'd please turn it off, put it on vibrate. Just given the weather outside, some folks may be kind of trapped in their cars a little bit until it eases up. So what we'll do is we'll kind of have to juggle the line up a little bit, but we'll get through it. So for members of the board, have had an opportunity to review the minutes. In your book, we have the minutes from the work session August 7th, 2012. So entertain a motion to accept the minutes. Okay, motion for approval. Do we have a second? All right, we have a second. Is there any discussion? That's fine.
And I'll stay since I wasn't there.
Okay, yeah, I'll hope you're feeling better.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a first and a second. All in favor? Aye. And we have 2 abstentions. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay. Request to fill the document.
Morning, Commissioners. I have 2 requests today for your approval. The first is a master's assistant, works for the master over in Circuit Court, and it's due to a resignation, and it is budgeted.
Okay. Everyone's okay with that? We'll entertain a motion to accept that.
So,
Motion for approval. Second. Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay.
And the second one is a receptionist position in senior services, and that's due to someone being promoted from that position into another position within the county, and so it's vacant and budgeted.
Entertain a motion on this position.
so
A motion for approval. We have a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
What we'll do is we'll move along to the Southern States Cooperative properties on Wilson and Telegram roads. Proposed installation of the community water system. Mr. Jim Wright is here, so we'll. You want to sit right in front of your colleague better.
First off, thank you very much for the opportunity this morning to brief you on an idea that Southern States is currently evaluating. That idea is to install a community water system to provide clean water for approximately 15 properties on Wilson and Telegraph roads. I'd like to show you a map of the county to make sure everybody understands where the project would be. I'd like to use the background on how Southern States got to this point. There in the upper left corner, everybody probably knows, is the town of Rising Sun. The yellow line is Wilson Road. The little red dot there at the very top of Wilson Road is the former Southern States property. As for background, Southern States Rising Sun Cooperative was incorporated in 1937. I believe their original facility was in downtown Rising Sun. But in 1974, Rising Sun Cooperative moved out to the Wilson Road location. The road across the top of the aerial photo you can just barely see is Telegraph Road, and the road down the right side is Wilson Road. Again, Rising Sun Co-op moved here in 1974. Unfortunately, in 1983, they had a 28,000-gallon release of liquid nitrogen fertilizer. There's a 30,000-gallon tank in that upper right corner there, and a pipe fitting on that tank corroded away. They had a 28,000-gallon release. Rising Sun Co-op dissolved in late 1987, at which time Southern States Cooperative took over ownership of the facility. New homes were built on Wilson Road from 1984 to 2007. Here's an aerial photo taken in 1993. So you can see down there at the very bottom is one new home. Here's 1999, and there's an additional 3 homes coming up the road. Here's October of 2009. As you can see, there are homes on every lot now, and this is how Wilson Road currently exists. As the new homes were being built, their wells had to be tested for nitrates and other contaminants. Nitrates above the federal drinking water standard of 10 parts per million were detected in most of the wells for the new homes, which I understand is pretty common in CECIL County, being Big Ag County. The health department required the developer or homeowner to install reverse osmosis systems to remove the nitrates. Once they install the RO system and get nitrates below 10 parts per million, then they would be issued their certificate of occupancy. Unfortunately, over the past 10 years, the nitrate levels have gone up in some, but not all wells, such that the RO systems can always be relied upon to remove the nitrates below the MCL. As a result of the rising nitrate levels, Southern States entered into a consent order with the MDE in October of 2009 to assess the extent of the nitrate impacts in the area. The assessment was to include the horizontal and vertical extent of nitrates in both soils and groundwater. We completed that assessment and submitted a report to the MDE in October of 2011. The green line you see on this aerial is what's called an ISO concentration map, or line, indicating the limit of 10 parts per million nitrates in the shallow aquifer. The highest level of nitrates we found in the shallow aquifer were 200 parts per million, and again, that was up where the release occurred back in 1988. I don't want to mislead anyone. We do have some deep wells in the deep aquifer outside that ISO concentration line that are above 10 parts per million. But essentially, that ISO concentration line is the extent of the majority of the contamination. Southern States has evaluated a number of options to provide clean drinking water to the impacted homes. We're still in discussions with the town of Rising Sun about possibly getting water from them. The other option we are considering is to install a community water system. Here's unfortunately, a pretty bad photo of a typical community water system. We are thinking about installing a system like that in the rear corner of our property. The blue rectangle there is a former Daltrey property, which is obviously right next to Southern States. That property has 2 wells on it, existing wells, and we are proposing to use those wells to extract water, pump it to the community water system building, treat it, then obviously pipe it down to the homes. We have discussed this idea with Cindy Latham and Chris Karsky of the MDE. In our discussions with them, there are a few issues, administrative and technical issues that need to be addressed, but overall they are in agreement with the approach, the idea. Southern States will own the community water system. We intend to operate it until either water from Rising Sun comes out to Wilson Road or groundwater is cleaned up. Issues that we need to evaluate further include doing a pump test. The pump test will be directed by MDE to ensure that those 2 wells can produce enough water for the approximately 15 properties, even during drought conditions. We need to do a treatability study on the water to find out exactly what type of treatment technologies we will need to get the water up to everybody's standards. MDE, normally when you're installing a well or a community well system, they come out to your site and put a stake in the ground and say, put your well right here. Well, in this case, they've indicated that they do need to make a site visit, but they don't see any reason why they wouldn't approve the 2 existing wells. We'll need to discuss the entire project with the district engineer to get his or her input and approval.
Who's the district engineer?
I'm not sure.
I think the district's has a hearing. I don't think it's the district engineer.
What he's referring to is the Master Water and Sewer, or the county code of CECIL County in chapter 67, it says that the director of sanitary facilities has to approve facilities such as this,
Director of Sanitary.
so which is in our case the director of public works.
We would obviously need to find a certified and qualified operator. Then we have to do determine operation and maintenance costs and determine the overall cost of the community water system. Once we've done all that, we have to compare the pros and cons of getting water from the town versus installing a community water system. But we thought that prior to incurring any expense for the pump test, the feasibility study, that we would brief y'all on this idea to see if there are any hurdles or major obstacles going forward.
Have the residents affected been, are you communicating with them on this plan?
There is a private and confidential agreement between Southern States and the homeowners, and at this point I'm not at liberty to discuss that.
Okay, and the part of the consent order, it was a two-part consent order that it could have been a community water system or water brought over from Rising Sun, and then the second part is that there would be remediation on the wells, on their individual wells on the properties?
The consent order required the assessment. We've submitted that. We received MDE's approval of the assessment, which should be any day now. We are required to submit a remedial alternatives report. They asked us to basically do a scorched earth research study for them of every possible technology known to remove nitrates. We'll submit that, and along with a proposed choice of which technique we would want to implement.
Okay, so that is in a correlation with what I was saying, that this is only one part of the consent order in putting in the community water system?
Actually, the MDE groundwater section is only concerned with cleaning up the groundwater. They are not concerned with providing drinking water to the residents. The consent order does require Southern States to remediate groundwater
Okay.
down to 10 parts per million.
And on the other side of the road, isn't that a wellhead protection area? Are you familiar with that?
I'm aware of it.
Okay. That's Mr. Fisher there.
What sort of response did you get from the town when you talked with them? I know there's some water issues out there, Rising Sun. Are you at liberty to discuss that? Or?
Oh yeah, they've
Okay.
had public meetings, very receptive. They have, my understanding, have had issues with their wastewater plant. They've got funding to improve their wastewater plant. Once they do that, I guess is when they'll get the allocation from Chester Water Authority for an extra almost 600,000 gallons a day. And that makes sense. You don't want the water before you get treated. What their timeline is, not sure.
My understanding is that you're doing your due diligence on community water system versus town supplied system or any other option. And I guess you're here to see if we have any major objections or going to place any hurdles in front of you to prevent you from going at least in this direction, but no decisions have been made yet.
Correct.
And you have a long way, and from what I see, you have a long way to go before you can come back to us and say, this is the direction that we probably will go in.
Correct.
So I personally don't have any issues with you moving forward and doing your evaluation and making your judgment calls and coming back to us and letting us know what you feel is the best practical way of solving this problem.
Okay, thank you.
You have a question?
Not really a question. I would agree that it appears that you're going through your due diligence process. What I think would be helpful for commissioners, I mean, you've talked to a number of not necessarily partners, but certainly interested people in this matter. It would be helpful for us to have something in writing from the town of Rising Sun, MDE, not other approvals, but simply that, you know, they're aware of this. Preliminarily, they agree with the concept and, you know, are willing to, you know, be part of this process moving forward as opposed to everybody kind of being out there alone. The cost part of it, I'm sure, is something that we're going to be looking very strongly at because that's probably a deal breaker.
Right.
So understand that. So just if you keep us in the loop as to what's going on, but we'd like to hear from the other partners involved that are giving approvals along with us too.
Oh, okay, that shouldn't be a problem.
Thank you.
About your timeline, I know you could look into this, where you have your timeline in terms of one versus the other, and working through that DE, their approvals.
I would say about 6 months. We get home test, feasibility study, all the financial analysis stuff in 6 months.
I guess I have one concern. It says here, it is the intent of section 175 that all shared facilities approved, constructed, and established shall remain in private ownership. Has that, Director Flanagan, has that been our history? Have we ever taken over a shared facility in the county?
I believe the answer to that is yes, not really by choice, because it has occurred, I believe, in several cases in the county's history whereby the owners and operators of private utility systems have gone bankrupt or otherwise walked away, and the county has been stuck with that system, has been, forced to eat it, so to speak, and then has spent a lot of time and money bringing those systems up to current standards.
Do you have a concern? In this case, it seems like it's a smaller project compared to what I guess Harvard view.
Yeah. From the Department of Public Works perspective, I think extension of the Town of Rising Sun's water system to serve this area would be preferable to a community water system, just because of community water systems. The concern with those is, are they adequately resourced? Is the owner and operator still going to be around in 20 years when the system is at the end of its useful life and needs to be replaced? Where's the money going to come from to pay for that? All of those things that have bitten the county in the behind previously. Now, in this particular case, I will say that I think that the risk is lower given the fact that it is Southern States Cooperative that is behind this. I think they appear to me to be a reputable firm that is, doing the right thing, so to speak. So I would say that the risk is lower than if it were a private developer, so to speak. But I would say that from our perspective, extension of the town system would be a preferred alternative. But I understand, there's an economic analysis is required.
I think a factor to consider is the actual remediation of the groundwater itself and how long, and if that remediation was going to take place and how long that would be. If after a 20-year period, if the groundwater was remediated to the point where it would no longer need to be treated, then that whole community system could be abandoned and taken out of place.
Go back on well water.
Right. Basically, everything can go back to normal only if there was treatment of that groundwater source. Or we know that the nitrate, hopefully, the source of the contamination is done and finished and final. Right. So 28,000 gallons of liquid nitrogen would be either dispersed or diluted to the point where no longer would it be impacting the groundwater, and hopefully the purpose and need for the community system would disappear over time. If there was some calculation for that to be determined, it would be helpful, and the pendulum would swing towards the community system if in fact that the remediation was successful.
It's interesting, liquid nitrogen fertilizer is 30% nitrogen, which is 300,000 parts per million. And the highest level we found was 200 parts per million. So over 23 years. Of course, when the release occurred, I'm sure a lot of it flowed down the ditch, probably made it to the stream. I don't know how much actually permeated into the soil, but it, natural attenuation is occurring. To address the long-term issue, Southern States was formed in 1923. We are a $2 billion a year sales company. We own about 220 retail locations in 11 states. In addition, we have about 8 feed mills. We distribute what we call farm and home products, shovels, homeowner fertilizers, that type of stuff, to about 400 agway dealers up in the Northeast. We own 10 grain facilities that we are leasing to Purdue Farms, Purdue Chicken. We are financially solvent, and plan to be here for another 90 years.
That's true, but didn't Agway have their problems?
Yeah,
And that's how you got Agway.
but we don't own any agway.
I know, but they had problems and
Right,
went out,
right.
almost went out of business.
Right,
I think it's fair to say you're not a private developer, is what you're trying to say.
correct.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. All right, well, we'll just let you continue on through your process and to all questions of the board, and just wait for you to come back with and what your results are.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lisa Webb just informed me that Mr. Petticord is unable to attend today, and he'll have to reschedule.
Okay. For those of you that were attending for the horse park information briefing, we do apologize. Mr. Petticord is unavailable to make it today, so do apologize for that. And hopefully we can get it rescheduled and make sure that it gets on the agenda. Okay, we'll move on to the closure of the water fund and transfer of fund balance to wastewater.
Good morning, Commissioners. As you know, last year we settled on the sale of the water assets with Artesian, and all of the final accounting and everything else has been done to get that fund closed out. And we have a fund balance of $2,248,300 approximately. And that money needs to be moved somewhere. I would recommend that since it came from an enterprise fund, that we put it back into another enterprise fund, and that will be the wastewater fund. So I await your direction or questions that you might have.
Treasurer Feely, I thought that the money that was collected in the enterprise fund had to stay in an enterprise fund, so I would recommend that we follow your direction and we put it in our wastewater.
Director Flanagan, do you have any input that you'd like to share with us?
No, well, I guess the answer is yes. I concur with Mr. Feely's recommendation. As you know, the county faces some significant challenges in the wastewater arena in terms of need to upgrade Seneca Point, desire to extend sewer infrastructure within the growth corridor, etc. The greatest challenge, of course, is going to be to figure out how to fund all of that. And so I believe that this is a good and proper use of the balance of the water enterprise fund.
What was the percentage of water customers that did not receive sewer service? Do we know?
Yes.
And I'm thinking out loud, Pine Hills is one water service that doesn't receive wastewater, but did most of the water customers also receive wastewater services?
Approximately 70%.
At least 70% received both water and sewage service.
Approximately 70% receive both.
Okay.
Any other questions? Mr. White, can you take a vote on this consensus?
The resolution will be on your August 21st agenda for action.
Okay, so we'll take action on August 21st. Okay, very good. And again, if anybody's going to follow up questions, Mr. Fielder. Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, we'll move on to Commissioner items. Commissioner Dunn.
Sure. Next Monday, August the 20th, the CECIL County Firemen's Association is hosting the annual Hometown Heroes recognition event 7 p.m. at the Northeast Fire Hall. I just wanted to invite the board to attend if they haven't received an invitation already.
Thank you. Commissioner Broomell.
Yes, I'll be attending that. I wanted to request from the Board of County Commissioners that we schedule a meeting to go over bridge projects. If you saw the newspaper, I went to the town meeting in Northeast, and I have been having discussion with businesses at the Rolling Mill Bridge area, and had a discussion with them about the priorities of bridge projects. And I do believe that this should be a priority. We'd like to revisit it. We'd like to have a discussion on Mill Lane, and also revisit or have a discussion on Old Elk Neck Road over Piney Creek, just to research our options.
Commissioner Broomell, I did have an opportunity to see the newspaper Friday morning when the article appeared, and quite frankly, I was surprised and to read that you had gone and it appeared to unilaterally represent the Board of Commissioners in making an offer to the town of Northeast.
No, if you read the newspaper article, I went on my own, and at that meeting, I was very clear that I was acting on my own. So, go ahead.
I just wonder if it gives you the authority to act on behalf of the Board of Commissioners in making an offer to revisit the priorities after we've already determined those priorities.
I believe I was elected by the citizens of the county. If I feel that this is important, and it's been very consistent in what my concern has been with the Elk Neck Road over Piney Creek, how did this become a priority? And how did it become such a massive building project in a non-priority funding area? I'm requesting that we revisit and we have a discussion on this. If this is a concern of mine, I need to pursue it. I'm asking that we have, I think there's enough that we have to discuss on this, and I'd like to have a discussion upstairs.
My concern, Commissioner Broomell, is that when the projects are put on the CIP list, it's done in a very non-political manner. It comes from recommendations of our DPW, Department of Public Works. It comes from recommendations of a committee that puts together the projects and their suggested priority, and then we adopt that. What has happened now in this process is that it's become political. And those bridge projects and road projects should be done on the basis of need and a proper and consistent priority, and the way to identify that and prioritize the criteria. That's already been done. And what has happened in this, yes, it has.
No.
And we've adopted that. And what has happened now is that you've unilaterally gone and said the county may be interested in doing this, and have pursued a partnership with the town of Northeast in pursuing this in this direction without the Board of Commissioners even having a discussion on it. So I believe that you put the cart before the horse in this matter. I've had a number of citizens who have called me and very concerned about this in terms of what is the process, what is the criteria, and asking, so if I don't live in a town, then am I, is the bridge near my community in jeopardy of not receiving a higher priority because a town community is not participating in funding?
Actually, I had a number of citizens come to me, and that's exactly why I revisited this. And I found out not only were these projects, these bridge projects, a high demand for fire response, police response. The one in Rolling Mill area was a priority funding area. It was servicing businesses. And that's what they were asking. Why is it, it seems that it's not criteria that, or a policy, a uniform policy across the board that is determining the priority status. It seems that it's driven by commissioners that are living in the area.
Commissioner Broomell, and over again, if you have a concern about, if you want to file an ethics concern and complaint, do so. But making unfounded accusations against your fellow commissioners is absolutely unacceptable. I'm going to ask you to stop one last time.
All right.
I will. That is
Point of order.
ridiculous.
Point of order.
Ms.
Let's
Moore.
do, time out, right? Isn't that how it goes? So, let's do this, if everybody's okay. Scott, would you be willing maybe just to give us an update in the CIP process of the bridges and just tell us where we're at in the process? Mr. Wine had mentioned...
Yeah, just for the board's information, with us moving to charter government, the budget process has been accelerated where the county executive has to submit a budget, which includes a capital and operating budget, by March 1st. So as a result of that, we have had to accelerate that budget timeline where, and that's being, actually it'll be reviewed Wednesday at the Charter Transition Committee. But that schedule is being accelerated where submissions will actually be made late summer, early fall to get that process started. So the CIP, there can be a draft CIP concurrent with the operating budget submissions in February, early February, so we can get a budget to the council by March 1st. So just so you know, that process will be happening sooner than later. So there'll be some meetings very, very shortly on that.
Well, Alan, I think your point is well taken in that we've already gone through the CIP process. We've adopted the priorities as a board of commissioners for this fiscal year, and I think that it's an issue that's already been resolved.
No, Director Wine, is it out of the ordinary that we would have a discussion on a bridge project and revisiting it?
It's happened before. It's, you know, it's a board's prerogative to revisit certain capital, you know, certain budgetary items.
And now that we've freed up, I think it was an $800,000 bridge project over Piney Creek where it was close. I've heard close to $5 million. I originally thought it was 4.2. I would just like to have a discussion. That's all I'm asking for.
Would everybody, just to an update, why don't we just, just be an update of where we're at. The county has a lot of bridges, we have a lot of creeks, rivers, streams. I'm just throwing it for discussion, just an update.
I think there'd be some benefit for the commissioners to hear from our Public Works Director on how priorities are set and what criteria is used to determine which bridges get fixed and when. I know that I have personally sat through an afternoon meeting with the Capital Improvement Committee, Budget Committee, that goes through all the projects for all the roads, all the bridges, the landfill, and all the other entities and enterprises funds throughout the county. And there is discussion on why these things are important and how they reach the top of the list. I would encourage the county commissioners that don't attend to show up the next time, because there is a process. There's been a process for many years. If you don't go to the meetings, you miss out on how things get to the top of the list. So I think that it would be a good idea to bring up to speed certain commissioners that have not attended those meetings. Now, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem revisiting it, but I think most importantly is that Mr. Flanagan can educate us on traffic count and location and all the factors that go into it, the cost of the construction, the environmental impacts. There's a lot of criteria that they use to support a bridge. And I agree with Terry that we should not be making political decisions here. We should be making this on sound policy and criteria. And I'd love for a Public Works Director to educate all the commissioners on what that is, on how we get to where we get.
Okay,
Well,
with that said.
I would like to say that I agree with Mr. Hodge. That should be on sound policy. And I support that 100%, and that is what I'm pursuing.
Okay, that's fine. Well, then we'll just, Scott, you and your staff maybe give us an update.
Well, it would be helpful if you could neck that down, because while I don't have the list in front of me, there are a couple of dozen road and bridge projects on the total CIP list. And you know, if you want to know cost estimates, traffic counts, scopes of work, right-of-way requirements on all of those, that is, you know, you might as well schedule 4 hours every Tuesday for the next year in order to go through the entire list. So if that's what you're looking for, we'd be happy to do that. I don't think that's what you're looking for. I would argue that's what the CIP process is about. If you have specific concerns about specific projects, I would be, as you know, I love to talk about this stuff and would be more than happy to do so again. Now, I guess I would like to add that the issue of Mill Lane, the proposed removal of the county bridge on Mill Lane and the restoration of that site is going to come to a head. I believe that will be on your agenda on August 21st for contract award for the project to remove that bridge and restore that site. You might recall that a month ago or so, the board gave us authorization to proceed with advertising that project, and I believe that bids were opened, I think it was last week, on that project, and so I anticipate coming before you on August 21st for contract award. Now, you'll also recall that, that's linked to an issue at the landfill. I got to find out where we are in terms of that agreement. If that agreement is ready to go, then this Mill Lane contract will be on your agenda for the 21st. If that landfill agreement isn't quite ready for prime time yet, then it won't be on your agenda for the 21st. It'll get pushed to the next meeting on the 4th of September. My point being, the board is going to need to make a decision in the relatively near future with regard to Mill Lane. Are we or are we not going to proceed with the project to remove the bridge and restore the site?
Well, Director Flanagan, since this topic has come up, been speaking with Eastern Shore Land Conservancy and possible funding that they have available for remediation. Has that been pursued?
Has what been pursued?
Discussion with Eastern Shore Land Conservancy and partnering with remediation, that they possibly have some grant money?
As I think you know, the Spectron trustees had stream restoration money. That opportunity has gone. They're taking that money elsewhere. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration has said, made the general statement that they have money for stream restoration. They'd be willing to evaluate possible future partnership opportunities, but they're not really going to be in a position to do anything unless the issue of access and or ownership is resolved. So that's, as far as I know, that issue is still out there.